Scrooge bent down upon his knee, for in the very air through which this spirit moved, it seemed to scatter gloom and mystery. It was shrouded in a deep black garment, which concealed its head, its face, its form, and left nothing visible save one outstretched hand. But for this it would have been difficult to detach its figure from the night and separate it from the darkness by which it was surrounded. He felt that it was tall and stately when it came beside him, and that its mysterious presence filled him with a solemn dread. He knew no more, for the spirit neither spoke nor moved. "I am in the presence of the ghost of Christmas yet to come," said Scrooge. The spirit answered not, but pointed downward with his hand. "You are about to show me shadows of the things that have not happened, but will happen in time before us," Scrooge pursued. "Is that so, spirit?" The upper portion of the garment was contracted for an instant in its folds, as if the spirit had inclined its head. That was the only answer he received. Although well used to ghostly company by this time, Scrooge feared the silent shape so much that his legs trembled beneath him, and he found that he could hardly stand when he prepared to follow it. The spirit paused a moment, as observing his condition and giving him time to recover. But Scrooge was all the worse for this. It thrilled him with a vague, uncertain horror to know that behind the dusky shroud there were ghostly eyes intently fixed upon him, while he, though he stretched his own to the utmost, could see nothing but a spectral hand in one great heap of black. "Ghost of the future, I fear you more than any specter I have seen. But as I know your promise is to do me good, and as I hope to live to be another man from what I was, I'm prepared to bear you company and do it with a thankful heart. Will you not speak to me?" It gave him no reply. The hand was pointed straight before them. "Lead on, lead on. The night is waning fast, and it is precious time to me. I know, lead on, spirit." Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Scully. This is the House of Thrillers. How's everybody doing out there tonight? Test, 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 test. Alpha Nerd Entertainment. Welcome to the House of Thrillers. Savvy Turtle. Savvy Turtle. Use Common Sense TV channel. Welcome to the house. Use Common Sense TV channel. Rita's Juicy Life. Rita's Juicy Life. Skus, 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 skus. Rita's Juicy Life. Soothing sound girl. Soothing sound girl. Skus, 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 skus. Soothing sound girl. Welcome to the House of Thrillers. The NDT show. The NDT show. Good evening, the white two-pack. The white two-pack. Victoriously Shay. Victoriously Shay. Victoriously Shay. Ariel Williams. Ariel Williams. Welcome to the house, Eric Garcia. Bubbles Butterfly. Bubbles Butterfly. Tammy's Beauty Tutorials. Skus, 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 skus. Oracles and Beyond. Gina and Tootsie. Gina and Tootsie. Gina and Tootsie, welcome to the house. Jason, Callan, Jason. The phantom moved away as if it had come towards him. Scrooge followed in the shadow of its dress, which bore him up, he thought, and carried him along. They scarcely seemed to enter the city, for the city rather seemed to spring up about them and encompass them of its own act. But there they were, in the heart of it, on change, amongst the merchants, who hurried up and down and chinked the money in their pockets, conversed in groups, and looked at their watches, and trifled thoughtfully with their great gold seals, and so forth, as Scrooge had seen them often. The spirit. The spirit. Skus, 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 skus. It stopped beside one little knot of businessmen, observing that the hand was pointed to them. Scrooge advanced to listen to their talk. "No," said a great fat man with a monstrous chin. "I don't know much about it either way. I only know he's dead." "When did he die?" "Last night, I believe." "What was the matter with him?" asked a third, taking a vast quantity of snuff out of a very large snuff box. "I never thought he'd do it." "God knows," said the first with a yawn. "What was he done with the money?" asked a red-faced gentleman with a pendulous excrescence on the end of his nose that shook like the gills of a turkey cock. "I haven't heard. Left it to his company, perhaps. He hasn't left it to me. That's all I know." This pleasantry was received with a general laugh. "It's likely to be a cheap funeral," For upon my life, I don't know of anybody to go to it. Suppose we make up a party and volunteer. I don't mind going. If lunch is provided. But I must be fed. Well, I'm the most disinterested among you all, after all. For I never wear the black gloves, and I never eat the lunch. But I'll offer to go, if anybody else will. When I come to think of it, I'm not all sure that I wasn't his most particular friend, for we didn't speak wherever we met. Bye-bye. Speakers and listeners strolled away and mixed with other groups. Scrooge knew the men and looked towards the spirit for an explanation. The phantom glided on into a street. His finger pointed to two persons meeting. Scrooge listened again, thinking that the explanation might lie here. He knew these men also perfectly. They were men of business, very wealthy, and of great importance. He had made a point always of standing well in their esteem. In a business point of view, that is, strictly in a business point of view. How are you, sir? How are you? Well, old Scratch has got his own at last, eh? So I am told. Cold, isn't it? Seasonable for Christmas time. You're not a skater, I suppose. No, something else to think of. Good morning. Not another word. That was their meeting, their conversation, and their parting. Scrooge was at first inclined to be surprised that the spirit should attach importance to conversations apparently so trivial, but feeling assured that they must have some purpose, he set himself to consider what it was likely to be. They could scarcely be supposed to have any bearing on the death of Jacob, his old partner, for that was past. And this ghost's province was the future. Nor could he think of anyone immediately connected with himself, to whom he could apply them. But nothing doubting that to whomsoever they applied, they had some latent moral for his own improvement. He resolved to treasure up every word he heard, everything he saw, and especially to observe the shadow of himself when it appeared. For he had an expectation that the conduct of his future self would give him the clue he missed and would render the solution of these riddles easy. He looked about in that very place for his own image, but another man stood in his accustomed corner, and though the clock pointed to his usual time of day for being there, he saw no likeness of himself among the multitudes that poured in through the porch. It gave him little surprise, however, for he had been revolving in his mind a change of life, and the thought and hope he saw his newborn resolutions carried out in this. Quiet and dark, beside him stood the phantom, with its outstretched hand. When he roused himself from this thoughtful quest, he fancied from the turn of the hand and its situation in reference to himself, that the unseen eyes were looking at him keenly and made him shudder and feel very cold. Bubbles, butterfly. Bubbles, butterfly, welcome to the house. Rita's juicy life. Tito's. Test, Tito's. Eric Garcia. Eric Garcia, welcome, buddy. You guys are highly welcome. How's everybody doing out there tonight? Skus. Bubbles, butterfly. Pour me another. Gina Bianavinci. Welcome to the house. Padding into the room, ladies and gentlemen, heavy metal chef. Making some of that creme brulee. Rita's juicy life. They left the busy scene and went into an obscure part of the town where Scrooge had never penetrated before, although he recognized its situation and its bad repute. The ways were foul and narrow, the shops and houses wretched, the people half naked, drunken, slipshod, ugly. Alleys and archways, like so many cesspools, disgorged their offenses of smell and dirt and life upon the straggling streets, and the whole quarter reeked with crime, with filth and misery. Far in this den of infamous resort, there was a low-browed, beetling shop below a penthouse roof, where iron old rags, bottles, bones, and greasy offal were brought. Upon the floor within were piled up heaps of rusty keys, nails, chains, hinges, files, scales, weights, and refuse iron of all kinds. Secrets that few would like to scrutinize were bred and hidden in the mountains of unseemly rags, masses of corrupted fat, and sepulchres of bones. Sitting in among the wares he dealt in, by a charcoal stove made of old bricks, was a gray-haired rascal, nearly 70 years of age, who had screened himself from the cold air without by a frowsy curtaining of miscellaneous tatters hung upon a line and smoked his pipe in all the luxury of calm retirement. Scrooge and the Phantom came into the presence of this man, just as a woman with a heavy bundle slunk into the shop. But she had scarcely entered when another woman, similarly laden, came in too, and she was closely followed by a man in faded black, who was by no less startled by the sight of them than they had been upon the recognition of each other. After a short period of blank astonishment, in which the old man with the pipe had joined them, they all three burst into a laugh. "Let the shy woman alone be the first," cried she who had entered first. "Let the laundress alone to be the second. And let the undertaker's man alone be the third. Look here, old Joe, here's a chance. If we haven't all three met here without meaning it." "You couldn't have met in a better place," said old Joe, removing his pipe from his mouth. "Come into the parlor. You were made free of it long ago. You know, and the other two ain't strangers. Still, stop to shut the door of the shop. Oh, how it squeaks. There ain't such a rusty bit of metal in the place of its own hinges, I believe. And I'm sure there's no such old bones here as mine. Ha 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 ha. We're all suitable to our calling. We're all matched. Come into the parlor. Come into the parlor." The parlor was the space behind the screen of rags. The old man raked the fire together with an old stair rod, and having trimmed his smoky lamp, for it was night, with the stem of his pipe, put it in his mouth again. When he did this, the woman who had already spoken threw her bundle on the floor and sat down in a flaunting manner on a stool, crossing her elbows on her knees, and looking a little bold defiance at the other two. "What odds then? What odds, Miss Dilber? Every person has a right to take care of themselves. He always did." "That's true, indeed. No men more so." "Why then, don't stand staring as if you was afraid. Woman, who's the wiser? We're not going to pick holes in each other's coats, I suppose." "No, indeed. We should hope not." "Very well, then. That's enough. Who's the worse for loss of a few things like these? Not the dead man, I suppose." "No, indeed." "If you wanted to keep him after he was dead, a wicked old screw, why wasn't he natural in his lifetime? If he had been, he'd have been somebody to look after him when he was struck with death, instead of lying gasping out his last there alone by himself. It is the truest word that was ever spoke. It's judgment on him. I wish it was a little heavier one, and it should have been. You may depend upon it. If I could have laid my hands on anything else. Open that bundle, old Joe, and let me know the value of it. Speak out plain. I'm not afraid to be the first. nor afraid for them to see it. We knew pretty well that they were helping ourselves. Before we met here, I believe. It's no sin. Open the bundle, Joe. But the gallantry of her friends would not allow this. Ooh, doo-doo. I'd like to thank you guys for coming in tonight. I just lost my place, so thought it'd be a good time to take a little breather there and say hey to everybody. Groomies, homies, welcome, buddy. Pour me another. Pour me another. Twist me another, groomies, homies. Rita's Juicy Life. Bubbles Butterfly. To laugh, to love, to learn. To laugh, to love, to learn. I'm Scully, your host. The author to you. Grandma Moses, Grandma Moses, welcome to the house. Gina Benavinci, Gina Benavinci. There she is. Linda Barker, Linda Barker. Welcome, my dear. Skus, 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 skus. Skus, 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 skus. You guys enjoying this tonight? The Scorpion King. Scorpion King. Scorpion King. Hey, pour me another. But the gallantry of her friends would not allow of this. And the man in faded black, mounting the breach first, produced his plunder. It was not extensive. a seal or two, a pencil case, a pair of sleeve buttons, and a brooch of no great value were all. They were severally examined and appraised by old Joe, who chalked the sums he was disposed to give for each upon the wall, and added them up in a total when he found that there was nothing more to come.
"That's your account,"
said Joe.
"and I wouldn't give another 6 pence if I was to be boiled for not doing it. Who's next?"
Mrs. Dilbert was next. Sheets and towels, a little wearing apparel, 2 old-fashioned seed teaspoons, silver teaspoons, a pair of shirt tongs, and a few boots. Her account was stated on the wall in the same manner.
"I always give too much to ladies. It's a weakness of mine, and that's the way I ruin myself. That's your account. If you ask me for another penny and made an open question, I'd repent of being so liberal and knock off half a crown."
"And now undo my bundle, Joe." Joe went down on his knees for the greater convenience of opening it, and having unfastened a great many knots, dragged out a large and heavy roll of some dark stuff.
"What do you call this? Bed curtains?"
Bed curtains?"
"You don't mean to say you took them down, rings and all, with him lying there?"
"Yes, I do, Joe. Why not?"
"You were born to make your fortune, and you'll certainly do it."
"I certainly can't hold my hand when I can't get anything in it by reaching out, for the sake of such a man as he was. I promise you, Joe." "Don't you drop that hole on those blankets."
"His blankets?"
"Who else do you think? He isn't likely to take cold without them, I dare say."
"I hope he didn't die of anything catching, eh?"
"Don't you be afraid of that. I ain't so fond of his company that I'd loiter about him for such things. If he did, you may look through that shirt till your eyes ache, but you won't find a hole in it, nor a threadbare place. It's the best he had, and a fine one too. They'd have wasted it if it hadn't been for me."
"What do you call wasting of it?"
"Putting him on it to be buried in, to be sure. Somebody was fool enough to do it when I took it off again. If calico ain't good enough for such a purpose, it isn't good enough for anything. It's quite as becoming to the body. He can't look uglier than he did in that one."
Old Scrooge listened to this dialogue in horror. As they sat grouped about their spoil, in the scanty light afforded by the old man's lamp, he viewed them with a detestation and disgust, which it could hardly have been greater, though they had been obscene demons, marketing the corpse itself.
This is the end of it, Joe. He frightened everyone away from him when he was alive, to profit us when he was dead.
Spirit, said Scrooge, shuddering from head to foot. I see. The case of this unhappy man might be my own. My life tends that way now. Merciful heaven, what is this? He recalled in terror. The scene had changed, and now he almost touched a bed, a bare, uncurtained bed, on which, beneath a ragged sheet, there lay a something covered up, which, though it was dumb, announced itself with awful language. The room was very dark, too dark to be observed with any accuracy. Though Scrooge glanced round in its obedience to a secret impulse, anxious to know what kind of room it was, a pale light, rising in the outer air, fell straight upon the bed, and on it, plundered and bereft, unwatched, unwept, uncared for, was the body of this man. Scrooge, he glanced toward the phantom. Its steady hand was pointed to the head. The cover was so carelessly adjusted that the slightest raising of it, the motion of a finger upon Scrooge's part, would have disclosed the face. He thought of it, felt how easy it would be to do, and longed to do. But he had no more power to withdraw the veil than dismiss the specter at his side. Construction cronies. Construction cronies. Welcome to the House of Thrillers. Construction cronies. Linda Barker. Sammy Superstar. Welcome, buddy. Rock and roll heavy metal shift. Some of that heavy metal creme brulee. Tiramisu. Oh, cold, rigid, dreadful death, set up thine altar here, and dress it with such terrors as thou hast as thy command. For this is thy dominion. But of the loved, revered, and honored head, thou canst not turn one hair to thy dread purposes, or make one feature odious. It is not that the hand is heavy and will fall down when released. It is not that the heart and pulse are still, but that the hand was open, generous, and true. The heart brave, warm, tender, and the pulse a man's. Strike, shadow, strike, and see his good deeds springing from the womb. to sow the world with life immortal. Bubbles, 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 butterfly. No voice pronounced these words in Scrooge's ears, and yet he heard them when he looked upon the bed. He thought, if this man could be raised up now, what would be his foremost thoughts? Avarice? Hard-dealing, griping cares? They've brought him to a rich end, truly. He lay in the dark, empty house with not a man, a woman, or a child to say he was kind to me in this or that, and for the memory of one kind word, I will be kind to him. A cat was staring at the door, and there was a sound of gnawing rats beneath the hearthstone. What they wanted in the room of death, and why they were so restless and disturbed, Scrooge did not dare to think. "Spirit," he said, "this is a fearful place." And leaving it, I shall not leave its lesson. Trust me. Let us go. Still the ghost pointed with an unmoved finger to the head. I understand you, and I would do it if I could. But I have not the power, Spirit. I have not the power. Again it seemed to look upon him. If there's any person in the town who feels emotions caused by this man's death, show that person to me, Spirit. I beseech you. The phantom spread its dark robe before him for a moment, like a wing, and withdrawing it, revealed a room by daylight where a mother and her children were. She was expecting someone, and with anxious eagerness, for she walked up and down the room, started at every sound, looked out from the window, glanced at the clock, tried, but in vain, to work with her needle, and could hardly bear the voices of the children in their play. At length the long-expected knock was heard. She hurried to the door and met her husband, a man whose face was careworn and depressed. Though he was young, there was a remarkable expression in it now, a kind of serious delight of which he felt ashamed, and which he struggled to repress. He sat down to the dinner that had been hoarding for him by the fire. And when she asked him faintly what news, which was not until after a long silence, he appeared embarrassed how to answer. Is it good, she said, or bad? To help him. Bad, he answered. We are quite ruined. No, there is hope yet, Caroline. If he relents, there is. Nothing is past hope if such a miracle has happened. He is past relenting. He is dead. She was a mild and patient creature, for face spoke truth, but she was thankful in her soul to hear it, and she said so with clasped hands. She prayed forgiveness the next moment and was sorry, but the first was the emotion of her heart. What the half-drunken woman whom I told you of last night said to me when I tried to see him and obtain a week's delay, and what I thought was a mere excuse to avoid me, turns out to have been quite true. He was not only very ill, but dying then. To whom will that be transferred? I don't know, but before that time we should be ready with the money. And even though we were not, it would be bad fortune indeed to find a merciless creditor and a successor. They sleep tonight with light hearts. Yes, softened as they would, their hearts were lighter. The children's faces hushed and clustered round to hear what they so little understood were brighter, and it was a happier house for this man's death. The only emotion that the ghost could show him, caused by the event, was one of pleasure. Let me see some tenderness connected with a death, said Scrooge, or that dark chamber spirit, which we left just now, will be forever present to me. The ghost conducted him through several streets familiar to his feet, as if they were alone. Scrooge looked here and there to find himself, but nowhere was he to be seen. They entered poor Bob Cratchit's house, the dwelling he had visited before, and found the mother and the children seated round the fire. Quiet. Very quiet. The noisy little Cratchits were as still as statues in one corner and sat looking up at Peter, who had a book before him. The mother and her daughters were engaged in sewing, but surely they were very quiet. And he took a child and set him in the midst of them. Sean S. Beats. Sean S. Beats. Welcome, buddy. To laugh, to love, to learn. To laugh, to love, to learn. Gina Piana Vinci. Read us juicy life. Skus. Tootsie. Quiet, very quiet. The noisy little Cratchits were as still as statues. And old Scrooge, he took a child and set him in the midst of them. Where had Scrooge heard these words? He had not dreamed them. The boy must have read them out. The spirit crossed the threshold. Why did he not go on? The mother laid her work upon the table and put her hand up to her face. "The color hurts my eyes," she said. "The color? Ah, poor Tiny Tim." "They're better now again," said Cratchit's wife. "It makes them weak by candlelight, and wouldn't show weak eyes to your father when he comes home. For the world, it must be near his time." "Past it, rather," Peter answered, shutting up his book. "But I think he's walked a little slower than he used these last few evenings, Mother." They were very quiet again. At last she said, in a steady, cheerful voice that only faltered once, I've known him walk with Tiny Tim upon his shoulder. Very fast indeed." "And so have I. Often." "And so have I," exclaimed another. "But he was very light to carry, and his father loved him so, and it was no trouble. And there's your father at the door." She hurried out to meet him, and little Bob and his comforter, he had need of it. Poor fella, he came in. His tea was ready for him on the hob. They all tried who should help him to the most. Test. Then the two young Cratchits got up on his knee and laid each child a little cheek against his face, as if they said, "Don't mind it, Father. Don't be grieved." Bob was very cheerful with them and spoke pleasantly to all the family. He looked at the work upon the table and praised the industry and speed of Mrs. Cratchit and the girls. They would be done long before Sunday, he said. "Sunday? Well, today then, Robert."
"Yes, my dear. I wish you could have gone. It would have done you good to see how green a place it is. But you'll see it often. I promised him that I'll walk there on a Sunday. My dear little child. My little child."
He broke down all at once. He couldn't help it. If he could have helped it, he and his child would have been farther apart, perhaps, than they were. He left the room and went upstairs into the room above, which was lighted cheerfully and hung with Christmas. There was a chair set close beside the child, and there were signs of someone having been there lately. Poor Bob sat down in it, and when he had thought a little and composed himself, he kissed the little face. He was reconciled to what had happened and went down again quite happy. They drew about the fire and talked, the girls and mother working still. Bob told them of the extraordinary kindness of Mr. Scrooge's nephew, whom he had scarcely seen but once, and who, meeting him in the street that day, and seeing that he looked a little, just a little down, you know, said Bob, inquired what had happened to distress him.
On which, for he is the pleasantest spoken gentleman you have ever heard, I told him, I am heartily sorry for it, Mrs. Cratchit, and heartily sorry for your good wife. By the by, how he ever knew that, I don't know.
Knew what, my dear?
Why, that you were a good wife.
Everybody knows that.
Very well observed, my boy. I hope they do. Heartily sorry. For your good wife, if I can be of service to you in any way, that's where I live. Pray come to me. Now, it wasn't for the sake of anything he might be able to do for us, so much as for his kind way. That was quite delightful. It really seemed as if he had known our Tiny Tim and felt with us.
I'm sure he's a good soul.
You wouldn't be sure of it, my dear. If you saw and spoke to him, I shouldn't be at all surprised. Mark what I say. If he got Peter a better situation.
Only hear that, Peter.
And then Peter will be keeping company with someone and setting up for himself.
Get along with you.
It's just as likely as not. One of these days, though there's plenty of time for that, my dear. But however and whenever we part from one another, I'm sure we shall not us forget poor Tiny Tim, shall we? For this first parting that there were among us.
Never, Father.
And I know, my dears, that when we recollect how patient and mild he was, although he was a little child, we shall not quarrel easily among ourselves to forget poor Tiny Tim in doing it.
No, never, Father.
I'm very happy, said little Bob. I'm very happy. Mrs. Cratchit kissed him. His daughters kissed him. The two young Cratchits kissed him. Peter and himself shook hands. Spirit of Tiny Tim, thy childish essence was from God.
Spectre, said Scrooge, something informs me that our parting moment is at hand. I know it, but I know not how. Tell me what man that was whom we saw lying dead.
The ghost of Christmas yet to come conveyed him, as before, though at a different time. He thought, indeed, there seemed no order in these latter visions, save that they were in the future, and to the resorts of businessmen, but showed him not himself. Indeed, the spirit did not stay for anything, but went straight on, as to the end just now desired. Until besought by Scrooge to tarry for a moment. This court, through which we hurry now, is where my place of occupation is, and has been for a length of time. I see the house. Let me behold what I shall be in days to come. The spirit stopped. The hand was pointed elsewhere. The house is yonder. Why do you point away? The inexorable finger underwent no change. Scrooge hastened to the window of his office and looked in. It was an office still, but not his. The furniture was not the same, and the figure in the chair was not himself. The phantom pointed as before. He joined it once again, wondering why and whither he had gone, accompanying it till they reached an iron gate. He paused to look round before entering. A churchyard. Here, then, the wretched man whose name he now to learn lay underneath the ground. Alex Express, welcome to the house, buddy. Alex Express, ASMR. Alex Express. Construction cronies. Construction cronies. Jill Street. You guys enjoying the story tonight? I'm Scully, the author that reads to you. I read my novels and classics with sound effects, some B-roll that goes along with the story. I imagine a lot of you guys already know this story and have seen the movie and different versions of it. And hope you guys are enjoying getting some holiday cheer out of this. Test. I'm definitely going to do another run through this and kind of run it like a play, over a couple of weeks during the holidays. Really enjoy doing this. The spirit stood among the graves and pointed down to one. He advanced towards it trembling. The phantom was exactly as it had been, but he dreaded that he saw new meaning in its solemn shape. "Before I draw near to that stone to which you point," said Scrooge, "answer me one question. Are these shadows of the things that will be, or are they shadows of the things that may be only?" Still the ghost pointed downward to the grave by which it stood. "Men's courses will foreshadow certain ends, to which, if persevered in, they must lead. But if the course is to be departed from, the ends will change. Say it is thus with what you show me." The spirit was immovable as ever. Scrooge crept towards it, trembling as he went, and following the finger, read upon the stone of the neglected grave of his own name, Ebenezer Scrooge. "Am I that man who lay upon the bed?" The finger pointed from the grave to him and back again. "No, spirit. No, no." The finger was still there. "Spirit, hear me. I'm not the man I was. I will not be the man I must have been but for this intercourse. Why show me this, if I am past all hope?" For the first time, the hand appeared to shake. "Good spirit, your nature intercedes for me and pities me. Assure me that I yet may change the shadows you have shown me by an altered life." The kind hand trembled. "I will honor Christmas in my heart and try to keep it all the year. I will live in the past, the present, and the future. The spirits of all three shall strive within me. I will not shut out the lessons that they teach. Oh, tell me I may sponge away the writing on the stone." In his agony, he called the spectral hand. It sought to free itself, but he was strong in his entreaty and detained it. The spirit, stronger yet, repulsed him. Holding up his hands in one last prayer to have his fate reversed, he saw an alteration in the phantom's hood and dress. It shrunk, collapsed, and dwindled down into a bedpost. Yes, and the bedpost was his own. The bed was his own. The room was his own. Best and happiest of all, the times before him was his own to make amends in. I will live in the past, the present, and the future. The spirits of all three shall strive within me. O Jacob Marley, heaven and the Christmas time be praised for this. I say it on my knees, old Jacob, on my knees. He was so fluttered and glowing with his good intentions that his broken voice would scarcely answer to his call. He had been sobbing violently in its conflict with the spirit, and his face was wet with tears. They are not torn down, cried Scrooge, folding one of his bed curtains in his arms. They are not torn down, rings and all. They're here. I am here. The shadows of the things that would have been may be dispelled. They will be. I know they will. I don't know what to do. Laughing and crying in the same breath. I'm light as a feather. I'm happy as an angel. I am as merry as a schoolboy. I'm as giddy as a drunken man. A Merry Christmas to everybody. A Happy New Year to all the world. Hollow here. Bubbles, butterfly. Construction cronies. Highly welcome, my friend. BC treasure trails. Linda Barker, it was all a dream. It was all a dream. Alex Express. Alex Express. Pour me another. Oracles, oracles beyond. Gina Benavinci, Gina Benavinci. Skus. He had frisked into the sitting room and was now standing there, perfectly winded. "Pass the saucepan that the gruel was in," cried Scrooge, starting off again and frisking round the fireplace. "There's the door by which the ghost of Jacob Marley entered. There's the corner where the ghost of Christmas present sat. There's the window where I saw the wandering spirits. It's all right. It's all true. It's all happened." Really, for a man who had been out of practice for so many years, it was a splendid laugh, a most illustrious laugh. The father of a long, long line of brilliant laughs. I don't even know what day of the month it is. I don't know how long I've been among the spirits. I don't know anything. I'm quite a baby. Never mind, I don't care. I'd rather be a baby. Hello? Hello here. He was checked in as transports by the churches, ringing out the lustiest peals he had ever heard. Clash, clang, hammer, ding dong, bell. Bell, dong, ding, hammer. Clang, clash. Oh, glorious, glorious. Running to the window, he opened it and put out his head. No fog, no mist. Clear, bright, jovial, stirring, cold piping for the blood to dance in. Golden sunlight, heavenly sky, sweet fresh air, merry bells. Oh, glorious, glorious. What's today? Cried Scrooge, calling downward to a boy in Sunday clothes, who perhaps had loitered in to look about him. Huh? What's today, my fine fellow? Today? Why, Christmas Day. It's Christmas Day? Said Scrooge. I haven't missed it. The spirits have done it all in one night. They can do anything they like. Of course they can. Of course they can. Hello, my fine fellow. Hello. Do you know the poulterers in the street but one at the corner? I should hope so, replied the lad. An intelligent boy, said Scrooge. A remarkable boy. Do you know whether they've sold the prize turkey that was hanging up there? Not the little prize turkey, the big one. What, the one as big as me? Returned the boy. What a delightful boy. It's a pleasure to talk to him. Yes, my buck. It's hanging there now, replied the boy. It is? Go and buy it. Walk it. No, said Scrooge. I'm in earnest. Go and buy it and tell them to bring it here, and that I may give them the direction where to take it. Come back with the man, and I'll give you a shilling. Come back with him in less than 5 minutes, and I'll give you half a crown. The boy was off like a shot. He must have had a steady hand at a trigger who could have got a shot off half so fast. I'll send it to Bob Cratchit's, whispered Scrooge, rubbing his hands and splitting with a laugh. He shan't know who sends it. It's twice the size of Tiny Tim. Joe Miller never made such a joke as sending it to Bob's will be. The hand in which he wrote the address was not a steady one, but write it as he did, somehow, and went downstairs to open the street door, ready for a coming of the poulterer's man. As he stood there, waiting his arrival, the knocker caught his eye. I shall love it as long as I live. I scarcely ever looked at it before. What an honest expression it has in its face. It's a wonderful knocker. Here's the turkey. Hello. Whoop. How are you? Merry Christmas. It was a turkey. He never could have stood upon his legs, that bird. He would have snapped them short off in a minute, like sticks of sealing wax. Why, it's impossible to carry that to Camden Town. You must have a cab. The chuckle with which he said this, and the chuckle with which he paid for the turkey, and the chuckle with which he paid for the cab, and the chuckle with which he recompensed the boy, were only to be exceeded by the chuckle with which he sat down breathless in his chair again and chuckled till he cried. He had not gone far when, coming on towards him, he beheld the portly gentleman who had walked into his counting house the day before and said,
Scrooge and Marley, I believe.
it sent a pang across his heart to think how this old gentleman would look upon him when they met. But he knew what path lay straight before him, and he took it. "My dear sir," said Scrooge, quickening his pace and taking the old gentleman by both hands, "how do you do? I hope you succeeded yesterday. It was very kind of you. A Merry Christmas to you, sir."
Mr. Scrooge?
"Yes, that is my name, and I fear it might not be pleasant to you. Allow me to ask your pardon, and will you have the goodness—" Here Scrooge whispered in his ear, "Lord Brett, Lord bless me, sir. Lord bless me."
Mr. Scrooge, are you serious?
"If you please, not a farthing less. A great many back payments are included in it, I assure you. Will you do me that favor?" "My dear sir," said the other, shaking hands with him, "I don't know what to say to such Don't say anything, please. Come and see me. Will you come and see me?" "I will," cried the old gentleman. And it was clear he meant to do it. "Thank you. I'm much obliged to you. I thank you 50 times. Bless you." He went to church and walked about the streets and watched the people hurrying to and fro, and patted children on the head, and questioned beggars, and looked down into the kitchens of houses and up to the windows, and found that everything could yield him pleasure. He had never dreamed that any walk, that anything, could give him so much happiness. In the afternoon, he turned his steps toward his nephew's house. He passed the door a dozen times before he had the courage to go up and knock. "Is your master at home, my dear?" "Yes, sir." "Where is he, my love?" "He's in the dining room, sir, along with mistress, and I'll show you upstairs if you please." "Thank you. He knows me." Fred. Dear heart alive, how his niece by marriage started. Scrooge had forgotten for the moment about her sitting in the corner with the footstool, or he wouldn't have done it. "Why, bless my soul," cried Fred. "Who's that?" "It's I, your Uncle Scrooge. I have come to dinner. Will you let me in, Fred?" "Let him in." It's a mercy he didn't shake his arm off. He was at home in 5 minutes. Nothing could be heartier. His niece looked just the same. So did Topper when he came. So did the plump sister when she came. So did everyone else when they came. Wonderful party. Wonderful games, wonderful. But he was early at the office next morning. Oh, he was early there. If he could only be there first and catch Bob Cratchit coming late. That was the thing he had set his heart upon. And he did it. Yes, he did. The clock struck 9. No Bob. A quarter past. No Bob. He was full 18 minutes and a half behind his time. Scrooge sat with his door wide open, that he might see him come into the tank. His hat was off before he opened the door, his comforter too. He was on his stool in a jiffy, driving away with his pen as if he were trying to overtake 9 o'clock. "Hello," growled Scrooge in his accustomed voice as near as he could feign it. "What do you mean by coming here at this time of day?" "I'm very sorry, sir. I am behind my time." "You are? Yes, I think you are. Step this way, if you please." "It's only once a year, sir. It shall not happen again, I promise. I was making rather merry yesterday, sir." "Now, I'll tell you what, my friend. I'm not going to stand this sort of thing any longer, and therefore," he continued, leaped up from the stool and giving Bob such a dig in the waistcoat that he staggered back into the tank again. "And therefore, I'm about to raise your salary." Oh, Jesus. Bob trembled and got a little nearer to the ruler. He had a momentary idea of knocking Scrooge down with it, holding him and calling to the people in the court for help in a straight waistcoat. "A Merry Christmas, Bob. A merrier Christmas, Bob, my good fellow, than I have given you for many a year. I'll raise your salary and endeavor to assist your struggling family, and we will discuss your affairs this very afternoon over a Christmas bowl of smoking bishop. Bob, make up the fires and buy another coal scuttle before you, Bob Cratchit." Scrooge was better than his word. He did it all, and infinitely more. And to Tiny Tim, who did not die, he was a second father. He became as good a friend, as good a master, as good a man as the good old city knew, or any other good old city, town, or borough in the good old world. Some laughed to see the alteration in him, but he let them laugh, and little heeded them, for he was wise enough to know that nothing ever happened on this globe for good, at which some people did not have their fill of laughter in the outset. And knowing that such as these would be blind anyway, he thought it quite as well that they should wrinkle up their eyes and grins and have the malady in less attractive forms. His own art laughed, and that was quite enough for him. He had no further intercourse with spirits, but lived upon the total abstinence principle. Ever afterwards, it always said of him that he knew how to keep Christmas well, if any man alive possessed the knowledge. May that truly said of us. May that be truly said of us. And all of us. And so, as Tiny Tim observed, God bless us, everyone. The end. Scuss, 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 scuss. Scuss, 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 scuss. Scully, the author that reads to you. Charles Dickens, A Christmas Carol. I want to thank each and every one of you guys for coming out tonight. It was a lot of fun. I hope that I was able to bring back some memories for some of you guys. I'm certainly dreaming of White Christmas. Mr. Sob. Mr. Sob, welcome to the house. Construction cronies. Scuss, 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 scuss. Scuss, 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 scuss. Javier Santa Maria. Javier Santa Maria. Javier Santa Maria. Welcome to the house, buddy. Javier Santa Maria. Susie Valentin, realtor. Susie. Hey, Susie. Linda Barker. Linda. Hey, Linda. How are you, my dear? Excellent. Heavy metal chef. Appreciate you coming in tonight, buddy. Yeah, it was kind of a trial run with the Christmas Carol. Hope you guys enjoy that tonight. Pour me another. Pour me another. Somebody suggested today that today I should read Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. Perhaps I've got all of them. Gina Bianavinci plus Tootsie. You are my sunshine. You are my sunshine. You are my sunshine. Scuss, 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 scuss. Test, 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 test. Pour me another, Mr. Sop. Sop. Mr. Sop's doing well. Tchaikovsky's Dance with the Fairies. See, Jenda, welcome to the House of Thrillers. I'm Scully, your host, the author that reads to you. Tonight, we read Charles Dickens' The Christmas Carol. Yeah, I'm really excited about this format. Like I said in the last stream, I feel like this is the future of entertainment, this type of interactive content where people present some form of entertainment. And I think I'm going to run this series again in a few days. And there's, trying to work on some of these overlays and things. At any rate, you guys are just coming in and giving me some of your time, and a lot of us are out here creators, and we're struggling to grow our channels, and a lot of you guys know what goes on in the back end. But I will say this: the first couple of days with a Christmas Carol, I was still working with Streamlabs, and I just was at my wit's end and decided to, like most everybody else, is going to StreamYards now. So I feel really comfortable with it. So I really do want to do another run again with it. But it's real interesting how all this evolved into this. Started out reading my own novels that I wrote, and started getting some requests for these different things. And certainly, you guys can always contact me at Jayscullybooks if you have some for any kind of business inquiries, or certainly if you'd like to have some kind of dedication of your own. Yeah, Linda, I was just thinking about that actually. Linda says, I believe you would get more views out of a polished, more abridged version released as a regular video. I love interacting in the chat, but live streams have no shelf life. Now, with that being said, I have found out that you can actually edit live streams. So once I get this format down, and I'll be able to take our live streams, which are kind of like director cuts of the readings, and with our interaction, I'll be able to edit that out and have a clean abridged version of it to upload as a regular video, because that is my idea, to get some of these classics out there that do drive a lot of traffic. And so that's definitely something I've thought of. I'm glad that you brought that up, Linda Barker. Linda. And I can tell y'all right now, there's a lot of good creators in here. I watch most of you guys, your content. So Creepy and Dragon Explore Beyond. Creepy and Dragon Explore Beyond. Welcome to the house. That is a very interesting chant. Creepy and Dragon Explore Beyond. Hey Scully, finally catch you live. I'm Scully, the author that reads to you. I read my novels with sound effects and B-roll that goes along with the story. If you like books on tape with a twist, stick around. Subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to hit that like and leave a comment down below. Doing good, bro. D would say long drop to beyond. How you doing, bro? This is the House of Thrillers. I'd like to welcome you. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen. What is the Skelly dude's name? Gina Benavinci. Gina Benavinci. Creepy and Dragon Explore Beyond. Creepy and Dragon Explore Beyond. Ave Santa Maria. Goodbye for now, Scully. Adios, Ave Santa Maria. The House of Thrillers. Happy holidays, everyone. Happy holidays. Happy holidays. good night.